Alright, hey guys, this is a review video for the Chapter 1 key questions. So let's start with number 1. What enabled the creation of societies and civilization? Well, in one word, you could just say agriculture. A lot of it has to do with three-sister farming, the fact that they're able to grow corn, also called maize, beans, and squash together. But really, it was corn that was the all-star beginning in the Central American area with the Aztec Empire and spreading throughout North America. So, in one word, agriculture, but overall, that three-sister farming, especially corn, but the beans and squash also. For number 2, how did each civilization's environment help shape their cultural differences? We went over 4 different areas. In the Southwest with the Pueblo people, they were able to harness corn first, and so they developed complex societies. I mentioned the fact that they built adobe houses and even carved out half of a mountain to build one of their cities. In the southeast and eastern seaboard, we have the Mississippian people. We also have the Iroquois. Those are two larger societies also able to develop because of their environment, while the Mississippian tribe eventually fractures into many smaller tribes because of a mini ice age. We see a lot of success because of their environment and their ability to grow crops like corn and beans and squash together in large amounts. On the Great Plains, you have a lack of tribes, and that's mostly because of due to a lack of water. Without water, they couldn't support large-scale agriculture, and so large-scale civilizations didn't develop. In the Northwest, you have too much just plentiful crops and berries and fish and hunting game that they didn't even have to develop large-scale civilizations. So number 3, why, there's a typo there, why did European nations explore along the African coast and across the Atlantic? The primary reason for this is that the Muslim middlemen had captured Constantinople, and they had cut off the Europeans from trade inside of Asia. And so those large and high prices they charged the Europeans for those same spices coerced them or encouraged them to explore elsewhere. So first they explore down the African coast. When they don't exactly find a faster route to those spices, because it pretty much costs them just as much to get around Africa, they decide to explore elsewhere. So number 4, what was the Columbian Exchange and what effect did it have on all the parties involved? The Columbian Exchange is an exchange of ideas and goods, technology, agriculture across the Atlantic Ocean between the Old World and the New World. So before we get into what effect it had, let's talk about the specific items that go back and forth. From the Old World to the New World, they bring horses, they bring cattle like cows and pigs, and they also most importantly, bring diseases, which wipes out around about 90% of the Native American population. Going the other way, from the New World to the Old World, you have syphilis, not that that made too much of a difference. You have gold and silver and other precious metals, which made a lot of profit for the Spanish and other European countries who raided the Spanish treasure ships. And then you have the crops of corn and potatoes, which created a population boost in Europe that enabled them to come back across the ocean in larger numbers and eventually really take control of the world. Number 5, what was encomienda? Encomienda was a practice of enslaving the Native American people. Why was it allowed? Well, the Spanish crown believed that as long as you were converting the Native Americans to Catholicism and thereby saving their souls, it was okay to treat them however they wanted. And it made them a lot of profit, so having them at first dig for gold and then work the sugar plantations in the Caribbean, they justified it by saying we were converting them. As for the effect it had on Native Americans, well, they died. A lot died, about 90% all in all, between the wars and diseases and being worked to death by the Spanish. Number 6, why did the conquistadors come to the New World? How did they treat the native people they encountered? Well, the conquistadors came over here for those 3 reasons we went over: God, gold, and glory. They came over here to spread God's message, at least the Catholic message, the one that they believed was true. They also came for gold, which they found the Aztecs and Incan Empire. After they find that as well, those men return and they have glory, praise and adoration. When you think of Cortez conquering the Aztecs and Pizarro defeating the Incas, and the fact that we still talk about their names, it can't be denied that glory was theirs. How did they treat the native people they encountered? For the most part, they conquered them, defeated them, and then would use them to to mine for gold and do other tasks. So overall, not very well. How did the Spanish solidify their hold on their empire? Well, as we mentioned, they conquered all the native peoples and enslaved them. They also built forts like St. Augustine in Florida to defend their holdings. They also built a long chain of Catholic missions along the Pacific coast to claim those areas. As we talked about in Chapter 2, they also attacked those who threatened them. We talked about how South Carolina was attacked by the Spanish and their Indian allies. And we also mentioned poor Fort Caroline, the French Huguenots, who were heartlessly slaughtered by the Spanish when they refused to convert to Catholicism. So those are numerous ways that the Spanish solidified hold on their empire. Finally, how was Spanish colonization of the New World different from that of other European nations? Well, at first they were cruel, but long term they overcame that cruelty and began intermingling and welcoming natives into their people. By the time a couple of centuries had turned, we really look back and see no difference between the Spanish colonizers and their initial victims, the natives, because they intermingle so much that natives just are absorbed into their culture. When you compare that to how the English treated the natives, never allowing them inside of their society. If they did, they were forced to assimilate and become basically an English person, but even then was never a full citizen. Compare that to the French as well, who treated them friendly from the beginning and had positive relationships with most Indian tribes throughout their entire time in North America. The Spanish stand out because they have a change of heart after the practice of encomienda and enslavement. So this has been the 8 major questions from Chapter 1. Again, I can't promise that all the questions on the quiz will come from this, but this gives you a good quick review and overview of the chapter as a whole. All right, thank you.